Welcome to Founder Tactics, a podcast about entrepreneurs and the communities that shape them. I'm your host, Julia Lucidi. Today, my guest is Johanan Dujon from the island of St Lucia. His company, Algas Organics, was built to resolve the need to manage the invasive species of sargassum seaweed in the island of St Lucia. He started his company in a garage. Now, this isn't your regular tech story where the garage doubled up as an office, but it was a massive covered lot where he would stretch out the seaweed with the help of family and friends, drying it out for processing. What Johanan had discovered was that the invasive species acted as an organic biostimulant, increasing the growth of plants and crops, saving farmers 20% on fertilizer, while at the same time restoring the island's beaches for tourism and fishing. Now, to date, Algas Organics has processed over 2 million pounds of sargassum seaweed into a liquid biofertilizer, and they've sold upward of 20,000 gallons of their product. We talked about the process of building his company and scaling into the U.S. market, but perhaps more importantly, we talked about the pressing self-development that entrepreneurship inevitably requires of founders. So without further ado, let's dive in. Ladies and gentlemen, the long-awaited interview with Johanan Dujon. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me, Julie. It's been a long time coming, and I am extremely excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited for us to catch up because we haven't talked in a long time.
Yes.
And hear what's been going on in your life. I'm going to take these off, so don't need those now. How have you been?
I've been good. A lot of ups and downs. It's been more of a roller coaster than I'm used to, but pretty good. Yeah.
That's kind of frightening because I know you've handled a lot of like ups and downs. So I'm like, what does that mean?
No, it's just figuring out. We kind of when we started off, I think we kind of put the cart before the horse, where we built something and we're trying to figure out who wanted it rather than building something in conjunction with customers in North America, at least. Mm-hmm. And so, we kind of had to go back to the drawing board a few times to really make sure that you're building, as they say in Y Combinator, building something that people want, which is super important. So we've had a lot of undoing to do, a lot of unlearning, and then a lot of recreating ourselves, or myself as an entrepreneur, but also the company at large, so that we actually find product market fit, because that's what matters at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. Well, what I like to start with is just to give you some space to introduce yourself and just share like who is Johanan Dujon, and let our guests get to know you a little bit.
Right. So Johanan Dujon, that's a very interesting question. So I am an entrepreneur from the beautiful island of St Lucia. As you could probably tell from my accent, I grew up there and I spent the bulk of my life over there. I have been a serial entrepreneur. I started selling blackberries while I was in high school so that I could take girls out on dates and to pay for stuff. And
What a gentleman. I appreciate that a lot. Not all cultures take that lead.
I'm telling you.
I'll just leave that right there.
So I've always been into entrepreneurship. I got my my actual first intro when I was about 9 or 10 with Rich Dad Poor Dad. My mom brought that book home and I fell in love with it. So I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always been solution oriented, and I always wanted to prove that opportunities do exist and that you can take advantage of them, even if you come from a small island. That doesn't limit the scale of what you could do. So I'm a big dreamer. I'm a hard worker, and I'm allergic to mediocrity, and I am a change maker. So that's what Johanan Dujon is.
Amen to that. I love that. Do you feel like St. Lucia is more entrepreneurial because the resources are limited in a sense, because it's a smaller country and there's just more limitations in that sense?
It forces you to think outside of the box and find loopholes for sure, because it's not it's not the easiest environment. So it's sort of like if you can survive there, you can survive anywhere type of thing.
Yeah. No, that's great. So I want to talk a little bit more about the business and the mission.
Yes.
So Algas Organics manufactures sargassum seaweed fertilizer, and it corrects the micronutrients deficiencies in the produce or plants that it's helping.
Correct.
reducing the fertilizer cost by 20% and increasing the crop yield.
Yes.
And the seaweed allows for the plant to pick up on nutrients that other plants, otherwise it wouldn't pick up on those nutrients.
Correct.
And in comparison to something like Miracle Grow, the roots are 100% denser.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I've seen kind of those before and after pictures of a lot of the plants that you guys have worked with, and it's really, really, really impressive. Yeah. From bushes being much more robust. I mean, it really looks like they're on steroids. I think that's the best visual kind of imagery of comparison between them. So is that still what you guys are focused on doing? I know like you opened this podcast saying we're pivoting, we're changing, we created something we don't know people need.
Right.
So how are things changing in a sense?
So essentially, we're still very much in that space. We expanded our team, and we brought on a new team member named Morgan, and oh my God, has Morgan changed this company? So essentially, we were focused exclusively on biostimulants in the agriculture space, but then Morgan said, well, what about bioplastics? And what about animal feed? What else can we do with this? And I thought to myself, what? I mean, we're the seaweed fertilizer guys, what do you mean? But when we started to really take a deeper dive in there, we realized, wait a minute, companies like two of the largest car companies in the world actually reached out to us on the bioplastic side of things. It's like, well, we're looking at cactus plastic and we're looking at all types of different stuff. So what can you do with the seaweed? And so that was sort of an aha moment with the plastic side of things. And then on the flip side, we noticed with animal feed that you could actually replace antibiotics with seaweed because it improves immunity in livestock as well. This has already been well research. And so we are still the seaweed biofertilizer company, but we are really, in that first business, we made the product first because we thought we were solving the sargassum problem, which we are solving. But, the actual product that we made from it, we needed to figure out who we're solving a problem for with that biofertilizer. And that was sort of not the first thing that we did. And so kind of like what Kia did, I don't know if you saw Kia CEO's more recent interview, but like he said, you just bring what you had outside of the U.S. into the U.S. as is, and then you try to figure out how to adapt it. So that's the process that we've been going through, and we're realizing, wait a minute, it's taking us quite some time to get a lot of traction with the biostimulant, but in the bioplastic space, in the feed space, there are very large companies that want to innovate, that want to use what we have. And the funniest part of that story is you're not changing the product. It's literally the biofertilizer.
Oh, it doesn't change?
No, you're literally taking the biofertilizer, you're powderizing it, and you can extract lactic acid from that and make bioplastics. Or you can powderize that and make a few small tweaks, and then you could have a feed additive. So that's been the mind-blowing part of where we're at right now. It's incredible. It feels like almost starting over in a weird sense, but now doing it the right way, building with the customer from day one so that you know that you're building something that somebody wants and you have a customer waiting for you at the end of that process.
Can you explain a little bit better what the bioplastic is? Because this is new to me.
Yeah, so essentially what happens right now, everybody's for the last it's about a decade and a half, they're about 15 years, everybody's been trying to find alternatives to petrochemical-based plastics. And what people have been doing for quite some time now is actually using corn or sugarcane or cassava or sugar beets. They're basically fermenting that and extracting lactic acid from that and making a biopolymer of sorts where you could just make that into a plastic alternative that's compostable. So the thing with plastics, if you toss it in the landfill, it takes an eternity to actually degrade. But with bioplastics, which was what was supposed to happen, you could make it from plants, and then it could decompose all naturally, and then you kind of skip that problem. The thing is now that with bioplastics, a lot of these products made from corn and other feedstock, other crops, you need specialized equipment to get them to actually degrade in the landfill. So then it's causing a problem still, even if it's organic. Right. And so, that's where the opportunity is. How do we use this pesky seaweed when you get all the heavy metals and all the bad stuff out? How do you then make it into a form that can compost in a landfill, one, but then two, how do you get that at a price that's at price parity with or cost parity with synthetic or just normal plastics. And that's what we're really working on. That's the exciting part.
Okay, so that's a interesting pivot for you guys to be exploring, really kind of starting from zero again.
It is, yeah, and it's exciting, but it's scary at the same time. But I think what makes it very exciting is how we're doing it. When you're speaking to like massive automotive companies who say, okay, if this can do this, this, and this, then I want to put it on my production line. That is much better than sort of making something and then trying to sell it to somebody else, if that makes sense.
So is this a full pivot? Like, are you still doing the biofertilizer, or are you completely letting go and focusing on this?
It's too soon to tell, but what I will say is we're still selling.
You're like, we decided today. Right before I walked into this room.
So we've essentially, we're still selling this, the biostimulant out there, and we're likely going to continue to do that. But what we want is our rule is, if we're not going to be top 3, then we don't want to play the game. That's our rule. And that's because of our vision. There's so many millions and millions of tons of this sargassum washing up on the beaches. You're only going to have the impact that we want to have if you're like top 3 in a industry, right, where you're literally picking up millions and millions of pounds of this seaweed off the beaches. Hundreds of millions of pounds would be great. You can create those jobs and that upward social mobility for women and youth that's our model. And so if we're not going to be top 3, if we're not going to be able to be a winner in a space and then create opportunities on the back of that for again marginalized women and youth, for the benefiting the environment, then we don't want to play.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I think it's important to have an understanding of where you want to get, because not everybody needs to build a company that's going to make it to the top 3, right? But if that is your goal, then it's important to build in a different way. And if your goal is to have a medium-sized company, that's also fine. You're just building with a different goal in mind. And I think it involves different sacrifices and a different lifestyle. Yeah. And so I do think it has to be like a very conscious decision of where you want to be and where you want to get to, right? And you also touched a little bit on like the impact on low-income families and also the environment. I think there's more to kind of tap into there, right? So how does I don't know what it's called, like it's not collecting or harvesting. I don't know
we use them interchangeably, so collecting or harvesting.
Okay, what is the impact that has if you don't harvest it? So does it have a negative impact on the environment? I know that there's like fishing implications. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about that.
No, so essentially you have, just imagine you're having millions and millions of pounds of a seaweed engulfing an entire coast. And so what's happening is, if you do not remove that seaweed, it starts to decompose. Now that sounds like a fairly normal process, right? Except that because it's covering everything, it sucks all of the available oxygen out of the water and kills everything beneath it to decompose. And imagine that's happening every day for like 7 or 8 months out of the year. It's really catastrophic to the environment, to the marine ecosystems in the Caribbean and Florida even as well, with what's happening over here. So, yeah, the cost of doing nothing, is huge when it comes to that from an ecological and environmental standpoint. And so, yeah, that's why it's super important to have a solution to this that's sustainable, because it's not going away. And it's only becoming more and more intense, which is good if you know what to do with it, and if you have a real application for it, commercial application for it.
Yeah. And you guys are based in St. Lucia, but that doesn't mean you only collect in St. Lucia, correct?
Well, we only collect in St. Lucia. However, we are now looking to expand the scope of where we operate. And so we're looking at Miami, for example. We're looking at other Caribbean islands and countries where there is high quality, and I stress this, high quality sargassum. All sargassum, there's grade A, and some places have higher grades than others. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're expanding that now. But for now, we only collect in St. Lucia.
Mm-hmm. And how much traction had you gotten? I mean, you started your company in 2014, wasn't it?
Yes.
In college?
Yes.
in a garage?
Yes. That is correct.
I feel like we've heard this story before.
Yeah, it started in 2014, and that's the thing, right? It's, sometimes we call it hindsight bias as entrepreneurs, but sometimes you kind of look back and you're like, how did I not see this? But you couldn't have seen it. You now have the experience, and now you could, you're looking at it with what you know now, which isn't fair to yourself. But we built this company in St Lucia, and we were in every store in St Lucia selling to all of the, home gardeners, all of the farmers. But St Lucia is a tiny market. And so while we had success and traction in real life, the market was too tiny for it to matter. Mm-hmm. And what we did was we started to export to other islands, but the islands are equally small. So you're having success, but again, not on the scale that you have the impact that you want. And one of the lessons, one of the takeaways here from me was definitely, and that's what we're doing with the second phase of our growth, is we want to operate in territories or countries that have a large domestic market for what we're producing, so that you're not trying to build a company, you're not starting in a place with a small market and then trying to build a company off of exports, because the data shows 70 to 90% of export expansion initiatives fail. So if you're starting in a small space and you have a 70 to 90% chance of failing every time you try to grow your company outside of that space, then the odds are not in your favor. And entrepreneurship is a numbers game. So for us moving forward, we're not ruling out operating in places like the US, in North America, in larger economies where bioplastics, animal feed, and biostimulants, there's a large domestic market for those three things.
Yeah. I think we met early on in your strategy to come to the US, right?
Yes.
And obviously it's a different culture, a different way of doing everything.
Yes.
How was that process of adjusting to doing business in the US? And maybe how have you grown in the past couple of years? It's been 2 or 3 years.
It's going to be 2 now.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I've had to really, I've grown a lot in terms of interpersonal skills and just communication, and communicating the way that people want to communicate, not just how I want to speak to them, but how they want to be spoken to and communicated with. What I mean by that is in St. Lucia, we were French and then English 7 times. So we speak French and we speak Creole, we speak English. Mm-hmm. But our culture is predominantly French. The French are very direct people, right? Mm-hmm. As a Caribbean person, I'm extremely direct. I will tell you what I want up front, so you know. So I come to the U.S. and I'm expecting that's how. Nope, no. The U.S. is a very indirect culture, so you kind of have to read between the lines a lot. And somebody's underlying motivations may not necessarily be what they tell you it is, and so you kind of have to. Whereas in the Caribbean, we're just we want to do this, and this is what we're going to do. You in or you're out, right? Mm. That's not how that works. So it was a lot of adjusting. Yeah. I've been reading a lot of books to really help me with that. There's this book called
Give them to me. I'm like, bro, I need your books.
There's this book called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
Okay, I've heard of it.
That book is a must-read, especially, and I'll put a caveat in here. If you are not originally from the U.S. and you're coming to the U.S., you need to read that book. One of the examples in there, I'm not going to belabor the point, but one of the examples was that there was this lady who was a fundraiser, and she was raising funds for the Girl Scouts. And so this lady walks in and wants to make an investment, right? Wants to make a donation. And so she starts presenting all of the different projects to this lady, an American lady, of course. And then the lady says, nope, I'm not interested. Mm-hmm. And so she keeps presenting, nope, I'm not interested. And she's like, what's going on here, man? You came here to make so mentally, of course. So she says, it seems that you're not comfortable with what I'm presenting. And that's the only time the lady actually says in the book, because I only want my money to go directly to the Girl Scouts, nothing else. The person didn't say that up front. That wasn't direct. Mm-hmm. And so when the person doing the fundraising says, okay, well, let me show you these projects instead. Still not interested. And so it gets confusing. What? But you said that this is what you want. You know what the solution was? Mm. The lady who was fundraising, the person who was it's Tammy. Tammy, who was fundraising, says, it seems that you're very passionate about finding a solution that's going to be impactful the same way that the Girl Scouts was impactful on you. And the lady took the checkbook out, wrote the check, and she said, didn't you want me to pick a project? She said, no, I trust you'll find a project. I just wanted to know that you understood me.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, you know how many times that's happened to me over here? Seriously, so when I say not direct, I mean that.
With biofertilizer?
Oh, yeah. With farmers, 100%. Yeah,
well, yeah,
you're not gonna
farmers, the crop is like their baby.
Yeah, you're not gonna get and
totally.
I'll give you a different. Canadians are even different, right? We're in Canada, and this guy puts off a his seat gets messed up, and he says what he wants. He's from Quebec. He says, "Look, I just want somebody to apologize for this screw up." He said what he wanted up front, French, kind of direct. So they're like, yeah, guy, I'm sorry. Here's a pack of Pringles. And he was happy with that. So the cultures are very, very different. And that book is a must read if you're not familiar.
Wow. You have a big habit of reading, right? We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
And one of your mentors challenged you to be reading more often. How many books do you usually read per month?
Before he said that to me, I would read maybe 4 or 5 books a year. And he says to me that at best you just be an average entrepreneur, 2 books a month. And I've kept at that since this year, and that's why I think we've grown so much. I've expanded my mindset so much in that space of time. 2 books a month. Pick your weakest areas, if it's sales, if it's whatever. 2 books a month on that. Psychology especially is very important. You'll do well. You will be able to recognize patterns, you become wiser, and you could make better decisions more quickly. If you have that insight rather than you learning by experience, because that's a very costly and very time-consuming way to build wisdom, for sure.
So are you doing audiobooks or are you reading paper books?
That's the cheat code.
I know.
Right?
I was like, how do you have time for this?
Yeah, no, audiobooks. So what I do is, I spend maybe an hour or 2 driving, every day. So within a week or 2, I can get through an audiobook very easily. If I had to read it sitting down, I would never, ever finish those books. Okay. So driving, for sure.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. And your mentor is somebody who has helped kind of challenge you and guide you in a lot of ways, right? How did you connect? How did you find a mentor? A lot of entrepreneurs don't have that role and are looking for somebody who could be a mentor. So it'd be interesting to understand a little bit how you found him and what's his profile that complements you well.
Yeah. So my mentor is the super high net worth individual, very secretive guy. He just likes to stay in the shadows. But I met him on Richard Branson's island, which is this is going to be a really weird story. So I'm from St Lucia. Richard Branson had the Branson Center. For those who everybody probably knows, but Richard Branson is the owner of the Virgin Group. So Richard Branson had the Branson Center of Entrepreneurship in the Caribbean because he lives in the Caribbean in BVI, and he wanted to give back. And so I was one of the entrepreneurs in their first cohort, and he liked what we were doing, and so he invited us to, I think it was Mosquito Island, which is his private island, to attend a meeting with Maverick 1000, I believe it was, or Maverick 100, and those are just really high net worth individuals who want to mentor entrepreneurs. And so I get a call, they say, hey, we're gonna fly you to BVI, which is Tortola, and then Richard's boat's gonna pick you up and take you to the island. I was like, this is so cool. So we land there, we go across, and his name's Bob. I met Bob over there. There were a ton of other people there. We made a pitch, not for money or anything, just presenting our company.
This is what I do.
Yeah, this is what we do. And he came up to me afterwards. He's like, I like what you're doing. I think you'll do well, let's keep in touch. And he said that, but he kind of disappeared into the crowd and everything. And point 1 is you have to be intentional if you want to mentor. So I went back to him and said, hey, Bob, we're leaving. Can I get your number or email? And he says, oh, yeah, sure. Here's my email. And so I get back home, and probably a couple days later, I sent him a message to say, hey, it was really nice meeting you. I'd be honored if you'd be my mentor, but if that's like too time consuming for you, just, I love the way you think. I like the way you process things. I'd be happy to just get your counsel on some stuff. And he was like, yeah, sure. That was basically it. From there, I would just send him updates every so often until he got super excited about what we were doing. And he actually is an investor in our company now, actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's it. It's put yourself out there, 1. 2, be intentional. 3, ask. And if somebody doesn't say to you immediately, yes, it's fine, just keep updating them, because then they will, especially if they give you advice, they're like, you should probably do X, Y, Z, do that. And then come back to them and say, hey, I took your advice. This is what happened. This is really great. Or this didn't work out, but this is what I learned. And people he said something to me about a couple of months ago. He said, why I chose to mentor? I said, why? He said, because you listen. He's like, there are so many people who I will mentor. I'll say something to them. They never do it.
Yeah.
So just listen to when you get the mentor.
Yeah, you'll stand out. If you listen, put in the work, and give feedback, you will stand out.
Absolutely.
Does he have a background in ag tech or anything like that at all?
He sold his tech company to, I don't know if I could say this, but he sold his tech company for a massive amount. I think it was to IBM. Oh, so he's more in the tech space. But he's a serial entrepreneur. He's into real estate. He's into a bunch of different other stuff now. Mm-hmm. And his thing is he understands how to build a business. So that's what's been from a go-to-market, product validation, focus on hiring people because you don't know everything yourself, Johanan, down my throat. I love that. That's what he does. And it really, I said to him, we're aiming to do $1 million in revenue. And he says, if that's all you did, I'd be very disappointed. And I'm like, you know what? That is the type of person you need in your life. Yeah. He's like, I would be very disappointed.
As iron sharpens iron, so man sharpens man. That's what you need.
That is it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. And I know that ag tech, the community, agriculture technology, for those who aren't aware, is just a term of any sort of improvement in agriculture. That sort of business and market is very tough to get into. I remember you telling me that it was just extremely competitive and relationally very difficult to have access and be able to sell to certain organizations, corporations. How did you manage that? Were you able to secure interesting clients that were, the ones that you were looking for? Did you have to develop a different strategy? Because I believe that it wasn't South Florida where you were able to really make a break. So, tell us a little bit about that.
So, here's the thing. So, first of all, when we came over here, the model was we want to go direct to farmers, which is a terrible idea, and I'll explain why shortly. And so, first thing is always be flexible in your models because you're likely wrong the first time. And so we came across here, and what we started to do was we went to a trade show, we met one farm, we did trials with the farm, we gave product away for free. Do not do that, guys. It's, in agriculture especially, if you give people something for free in agriculture, they're never going to pay for it. Ever. Even if it works. And so, anyway, we went to this trade show, we found farmers, we did some trials, and we quickly noticed, we thought, the idea was if we find a farmer, do a trial, they're successful, then they'll buy product, A, and then B, we can take their experience, their testimonials, and then go to other farmers. That wasn't smart for a number of reasons, and so we had to pivot and say, well, you know what? Rather than, it's like dominoes, right? It's like an actual domino, not Domino's Pizza. It's like an actual domino where you want network effects. So what I mean by that is we decided to focus on distributors because if you want, when you're successful once, it hits down 20 dominoes rather than every time you're successful, you're then just laying down one domino, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah,
so
it does.
So we decided to go through distributors, build all the relationships, yes, but then go through a distributor who already has those relationships. And they're basically going to do the same thing that I'm doing, going to individual farmers. The difference is the farmers trust them, the farmers know who they are, and most importantly, they have the network of farmers who will gladly adopt whatever it is that they're bringing on from us. And so, we had to get rid of that model. We did get a few dollars from it, but it wasn't much. And so, yeah, we had to really pivot our model to have any semblance of traction or success in that space.
And where did you find the distributors? What is it, at a trade show? Go emailing people?
Yeah, it's a blend. It's really, we hired someone who then brought us to a distributor right out of Michigan. And so it's really a mix. There's no one way. It's cold emails are like your least likely way to get anybody to listen to you.
So you found somebody who had some solid relationships already and hired that person.
Exactly. It's all relationships. Like, you can't. I think that's, regardless of your industry, it's all relationships. How do you get someone that people already trust to trust you?
Right.
And be worthy of that trust too. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know that you've done like a ton of accelerator programs. You did the Richard Branson thing. Yeah. Like, did all of these different like accelerators, entrepreneurship support programs, did they make a difference for you? Was it worth it to spend so much time dedicating to these programs that require you to be present, to be pitching to a bunch of people, maybe doing PR stuff, which causes you, of course, to be thinking about your business, but it also, I think it maybe can take you away from the day-to-day of your business. Have those helped you, or like, what's made the biggest impact truly on your business?
They've definitely helped from a relationship and network standpoint. Mm-hmm. And from a personal growth standpoint. I think as an entrepreneur, if you're not growing, your company's likely not growing either. And so all of those, although at different stages, were exactly what we sort of needed at that time to grow. So, for example, we did the Branson Accelerator, but that was more focused on, I guess, the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. But then when we did some other, so let's say CIC, right? When we first came across, that was a different thing, because now I was learning how to pitch to American investors.
Right.
So that was like a different thing. And then, having gotten into Endeavor, that was a different thing again, because now it's like, okay, this is how unicorns pitch to. So like, it's just like every stage is just a totally different set of needs. And I'll say this, being humbling enough to take part in an accelerator program, and I say humble enough because at some point I've been to like 5 or 6, Jesus, and I felt like I know this already. Yeah. No, you're going through CIC, I met you, through Endeavor, I met so many people. And it's really those relationships that help you grow.
Yeah.
One more thing I'll say is, and that's the biggest way that they've helped, I used to see revenue as a Caribbean startup and a Caribbean entrepreneur as dollars. Spending time in the US has allowed me to see relationships and people as revenue. Mm. Because the right relationship will open up massive contracts and massive deals for you. So your money doesn't fall from the sky. It comes from relationships. It comes from trust, where this person then can open a door for you to bring the money in. But if you're trying to make money, push, which is like, I guess, a normal thing, and you screw up relationships, that success is not going to be a sustainable thing over time either. So
Yeah, that makes total sense, especially coming from outside of the U.S. I feel like those programs, particularly for you, help you adapt into the U.S. culture, the mindset. You see other founders pitching who maybe are from the U.S., others that aren't, and you see what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, and you start to adjust and grow from that.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of growth from you just since when we met. Just a lot of change and. Yeah, just in the way you communicate, too. Oh. Which is great.
Something's working, damn it.
And, through entrepreneurship, there's a lot of ups and downs, as we had said.
Yeah.
And it takes a big emotional toll. It takes a big mental toll.
Yeah.
How do you cope with that difficulty? Because I think it comes in waves.
Very accurate.
Yeah, it comes in waves, and you're feeling really great one week, and then the next week you're like super down, and high highs and lows is a very accurate way to describe it. And I feel like it's not super talked about. I feel like as I worked with entrepreneurs throughout my whole career, I always knew that this was part of the equation, but it wasn't until I stepped into my own business that I really felt it. And I was like, yo, this is painful.
It is very painful. And 3 things keep me grounded. I think 4 of them, actually. Faith, you have to really, and I don't tell people what they have to do. So what's worked for me is that, having faith in a higher being is incredible, especially, during the tougher times. Being able to meditate or pray is amazing, because then you're able to come to the acceptance that you don't know the answer, and seeking that help, even spiritually, is amazing. That's one, because we don't know everything, and never will, frankly. So that's a big one. Second one's your vision. I think it's really, if you're really passionate about what you're. The ups and downs test how passionate you are about actually achieving what you said you wanted to achieve from the beginning. I think these are just tests of life. And boy, have I had a few tests, but they're just tests of life. And if you're really passionate and you really believe in what you want to do, and you really want to achieve that, then, and your personality type as well. Like, I'm driven by madness. So, like, if I'm working towards this and I hit a roadblock, I'm like, I'll show you, like, it's going to motivate me more to make that happen. So it's definitely staying true to your vision. Third thing is the gym. Like,
yes.
I will take my rage out on the bar, and I will work out so that when I come home, I'm a nice person to my family.
Well, and it gives a lot of clarity of mind too. If we were meant to move, we were meant.
Absolutely.
We were not meant to sit in front of a computer for 12 hours a day.
Absolutely. No, that's a huge one. I think it helps with clarity, as you said. I like to go on long walks. We walk like 4 miles a day. When I'm back home, we just go for walks.
Oh, wow.
And it's not a concrete jungle. You're out in the countryside walking. It's really nice.
Oh, so I can only imagine how beautiful St Lucia is.
It is amazing. So
if it looks anything like Rio.
I think they're on the same. I think they're in the same boat for sure. But if Rio was an island, I guess.
Yeah. But true.
But yeah. So definitely faith. Definitely your vision. Definitely exercise. It helps.
Yeah.
And also challenges you too, because I hate doing dips. And what I noticed is when I'm at the gym and I hate doing something, I'm just like do it. And over time, I hate it less. Mm-hmm. Same thing for business. Sometimes if you're not good at sales, you hate picking up the phone to make calls. That mentality kind of transfers a bit as you build your discipline in the gym and working out too. And I think the last thing is just having great relationships, especially if you're family.
Yes.
That is amazing. So I will give, we talk a lot of crap at home. Like, we laugh, we give jokes, we will go on road trips. My dad is the most adventurous person you'll meet. It's incredible. And that's really fun,
Yeah.
Married now, so my wife is super fun-loving. So if she sees that I'm down...
I want to meet her.
Oh, yeah, no, you will. She is, she's the most fun-loving person you'll find on earth. So if I'm down... She's a top-class chef, too. She cooks.
Oh, my goodness.
So good family.
I got to go spend, a month with her so she can teach me how to cook. I was just telling my husband, I want to learn how to cook better.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
and I just found my teacher.
There we go.
What's her name?
Her name's Asha.
Asha.
Asha's amazing. So
Asha, I want to meet you.
that calms me down a lot. Having somebody who understands, who's very supportive, family who's supportive, partners who are supportive. That really helps. It helps you, and people who believe in you too, right? It helps you really ride those waves, because it's tough. It's. I think we paint a lot of beautiful pictures about entrepreneurship, and it is beautiful.
Yeah.
But it can be a real pain in the neck. It can make you doubt yourself, make you question why you even started doing this in the first place. Were you wrong? Did you what's happening? And it's just growth at the end of the day, right?
I completely agree with all those 4 points. And I would add that faith is definitely the most important one for me. It's definitely the number one. If I didn't have my faith, my relationship with God, and the ability to pray to him and have guidance, I think that all the other areas of my life would be compromised. And more so for me, one place that I'm finding that being an entrepreneur is shaping me a lot is humbling myself in prayer and how important that is. And just remembering, like, I'm not all that. Like, you can be proud of yourself, but you know how it is. Like, we all have an ego, and we have to check that ego so that we are focused on doing what's right, on serving well, and on running a business, in my point of view, that honors God. And that doesn't necessarily mean always, it's going to sound kind of weird, but it doesn't always mean doing the best thing for your business or what might seem like the immediate best thing. But it's about having a long-term vision.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, I've been lucky enough to come across some really awesome mentors that share the same faith as me. And I'm a Christian. And just being able to, you know, share with them like some issue or relational issue or business decision that I'm like really struggling with. It's incredible how, like, when you are going in the wrong direction, you can't find peace.
Yes. Oh my God. That needs a quote right there. That's a quotable moment.
Like,
when you're going in the wrong direction, you can't find peace. You're right. 100%.
And it may seem like the right direction because sometimes to your ego or to your limited understanding, a particular direction is the right direction, right? And I found that when I seek counsel, in the multitude of counselors, there is
safety,
wisdom.
And wisdom. That's correct.
Safety and wisdom,
Absolutely.
yes. Prudence and wisdom.
Yes.
And so I have really leaned on, you know, having access to those mentors, and my husband being one of them, you know, who helps me understand, you know, where my motivations are and prays for me and helps me grow in that aspect to be able to make hard decisions that have a foundation of peace to them. Because I think that that's what's really special about walking in faith in your career, is that either your career, your company, whatever it may be, is that it has allowed me personally to make really difficult decisions, but have certainty and peace that that is the direction after getting counsel, after praying, you know, spending time in the Word, whatever it is that it takes for me to find that direction.
Absolutely. No, that's, I agree 100%. And you're right. Peace is something that's so underrated. I'm sorry.
You're good.
Super underrated, but it's true. And I think that you make your best decisions when you're at peace, when your mind is clear, and when I think we all have this internal, whatever your faith is, we all have this internal compass. And I can tell when I am transgressing or if I am sort of going in the wrong direction. I love what you said. You know, prayer is super important to sort of right the ship. So, you know, I'm not just making this decision because I think it's right and I know everything. It is, I have sought counsel, I have prayed about this, and there's an actual prayer that we prayed. It's called, I forgot the English name for it, but essentially it's a prayer where you say, look, I'm unsure which way to go, and you know, and I don't know. So wherever it is that you want me to go, make it easy for me. And wherever it is that you do not want me to go, do not make it easy for me.
Close those doors.
Let me tell you, the doors start banging, boom, and rather than feeling frustrated or sad about it, you're like, okay, this is good. Because one thing I've always said, and I've experienced personally, people think that you need to be grounded spiritually when you're not successful. You don't hear very successful people talk about spirituality most times. You need to be grounded spiritually, especially when you are successful. And why is that? Because when you have two doors, when you have one door open in front of you, you have one opportunity. It's easy. You take it or you don't. When you have 50 doors open in front of you, 2 of them will lead to your destruction. 1 of them will send you crazy. 1 of them will put... Like, you really need guidance there with the 50 doors.
Oh my gosh.
Over the one door, I'll tell you.
Absolutely, because there's something about a closed door and a no that is so like, okay, I don't have to decide anything. It's a no. But when you have like 3 open doors, you're like, which one is it?
Yeah.
It's tough.
Absolutely. Funny you spoke about that. You know, this Never Split the Difference book. In North America, no is actually where the negotiation begins. And that book is a must read. He's like that. No is where psychology books are amazing. No is where the negotiation begins, because why do you say no?
Right.
You say no because you want to feel that sense of control and autonomy of a situation. And the book actually teaches you that if you get people to say no quickly, they've sort of set the boundary, but now they're listening to hear what you have to say. What we do sometimes when we hear no is we stop. No, well, in some instances, yes, but in most instances where you hear when somebody says you're trying to get a deal and somebody says, no, I'm not interested, they're actually listening to see, okay, I said no, but am I missing something here? And that's actually your negotiation point. But anyway,
Oh, wow, that's great.
it's crazy. It's a crazy book.
Yeah, I've heard that before, but now I'm super curious to dig deeper into that.
Yeah.
That's great. And how has community been a part of your journey? Be it, I know you mentioned your wife as being a person who is a part of your community that really supports you.
Yeah.
Is there a particular community that, or people that come to mind that have really stood out in supporting you through your journey? I mean, you've been an entrepreneur since you were in college. You were, I don't know, 21 years old or something?
Yeah, I was. It's been a while. Community is huge. I would definitely say some of our investors have been incredible, but if you're looking just even beyond that, from a community standpoint, other entrepreneurs who are good energy, not the jealous, competitive types that are competing with you secretly, and like people who genuinely are aligned on where they're trying to go. That's been huge. Like meeting people at Endeavor has been, I think, one of the most liberating experiences, because you realize, wow, this guy just raised $100 million and he's still trying to figure it out, David. So we're all trying to figure it out. You know, that's really liberating.
Oh, I love that.
I think also meeting persons like you, Julia, has been amazing, because it really helps when you know what, I'm going through this, but I'm not alone. And as you speak to other entrepreneurs and you also learn, wow, I'm not the only one going through this. As a matter of fact, this person could probably help me figure this shit out. And I have figured out something probably that needing help with. That symbiotic relationship, it's incredible. And it helps you it humanizes you to yourself, because as entrepreneurs, we are super hard on ourselves. If you hear the things I say to myself, I would not say it probably to somebody else. In terms
for sure.
like, I wouldn't say it, like, just in terms of, yo, why are you not, like, I wouldn't speak to anybody else that way. And so it's like me understanding, hey, my friend, you need to understand what you're doing. And the best way to do that is by having a community of people who are ahead of you, who are behind you, who are at your pace. It's all great, where you can really teach, because in teaching you learn as well, but also be taught and receive and get poured into as well. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool, because when we met, I wasn't an entrepreneur yet, and so I was in a place to help you and connect you with the right people.
Yeah.
And once I started my company, I was knocking on your door. I'm like, hi, remember me? And you've just always been really kind. And, when I invited you to the podcast, you were like, absolutely, I will be there. Let's make it happen. So I appreciate that so much. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, just understand better now what that process is like.
It's not easy, but it's fun. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh, absolutely.
I would.
The freedom is just so magical.
Yes.
It's magical. I love it. I feel very, very thankful to be in a place where I can be building my own company.
Absolutely.
And are you still plugged in with Endeavor? Are you still a part? Like, what's that relation? Are you an Endeavor entrepreneur officially, or are you still engaged with them? Do they do events for the entrepreneurs? Because I know it's Endeavor Miami, right?
Yeah, so it's Endeavor Miami, which is kind of different to the main Endeavor entrepreneur thing. But yeah, I'm still part of the Endeavor Miami group. They have, I think they actually have a retreat coming up very soon. So no, I'm still part of that community, and it's incredible. There are events. If there's anybody that you need to be connected to, you want to be connected to, they'll connect you through just having a conversation. They're like when Miami-Dade put out that thing where they had this Sargassum challenge, and my friends at Endeavor were like, yeah, Johanan, this newsletter is basically saying we need you, so you apply, you do that, right? That type of thing. So you have that, you have that support from that community, which is amazing.
Yeah,
So still plugged in, and I always go to the events once I'm here. Yeah.
That's great. That's super good. Yeah, it's like you said, like you think you're going through the struggle and that you are the only one kind of battling, but then you hear that the guy that raised, his Series A is still treading water. You're like, sweet.
It helps you. It humanizes everything. And it helps you. I think, man, where do I start? It's once you understand that it's not just you going through something, your mind kind of goes into it, shifts into a different gear. And there's another book that's been helping that. One of my friends from Endeavor actually recommended this. It's a book called Who Not How.
Who Not How?
Who Not How.
Oh, okay.
It says to you that every issue that you're trying to figure out at a certain stage of your journey, you're asking the wrong question. When you ask how, it connotes that you have to be the one to figure that out. But if you ask who, you will find people who have already figured that out.
Yes.
Who can help you get to the next point.
That's really interesting because that's a mindset that I am still working on, I would say, because I do have a very vast network. And when I started my company, I was very hesitant to reach out to people.
Right.
I centralized a lot of what I had to do. But as soon as I started reaching out to people, I saw how much people were willing to help and, help me get started. You know what I mean? One of my friends actually let me borrow these microphones like indefinitely. He was like, hey, you're starting a podcast? That's awesome. I have 4 microphones. Do you want to use them? I was like, yes.
Shout out that friend.
Shout out to Nate. And so, it's surprising how much if you voice your needs, how many people will surprise you by showing up and supporting you.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a big thing. And that's something that I myself am struggling with. I have struggled with it, but words have power. So this is something that I am working on actively, I should say.
There you go. I love it.
And no, it's a really powerful and liberating thing where look, I could do this myself and it could take me 10 years, or I could reach out to people and they could help me and I'm helping them too, because it's that symbiotic relationship, right? So, yeah.
What are some things that you're really proud of having accomplished with Algas Organics?
If I tell you the absolute unfiltered truth, I haven't been fully proud yet. Now, somebody might say, you on Forbes, man, what? Listen, I think my proudest moment was when we collected 1 million pounds of seaweed off the beach for the first time, just harvesting, and the beach was laden with this thing, and then when your work is done, it's clean, and it's like, oh my God, this whole circular economy thing can work. Seeing that happen, I think was my proudest thing. Not any accolade, not anything. It's seeing the idea work the way you want to see it. And I think I've not been very proud because we've not gotten to where I want us to be yet. Mm-hmm. And on the outside, it might appear like that, but no, we have we're not there yet. So I'm not fully proud of anything beyond seeing the idea work as it's supposed to yet.
What's the most fulfilling part of your work? Because we have to wear so many hats, and the accounting sucks, and I don't like doing taxes, but I love editing my podcast and sitting here and interviewing cool founders. What's the part of your job that's just really enjoyable that you say, oh, this is why I do this?
Definitely speaking to farmers and speaking to customers, and I have to stop saying farmers now because we might have different types of customers. Sure. But speaking to people who use what we've created where it's been transformational for them, that I live for that. Mm-hmm. So when I hear somebody say, my crops were going to hell and I used this product and wow, they bounced back, or man, I was able to make more money using this, or any just customer feedback gives me total joy, because it reinforces sort of your sense of purpose, where it's sure, this is who I'm building this for.
Yeah.
I need to find 1 million more use, but you're who I'm building it for, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really great. And what does success mean to you? Is success Is it like a end game? Like, is there a specific place that is success? Because I find this is a super cliche question, obviously, but personally, to me, success has really changed its definition. Mm-hmm. Once I left the corporate world, I personally found that success meant waking up with joy every day and pursuing something that was meaningful to me. Because the truth is, tomorrow is not promised to anybody. Yeah. You may not have tomorrow. Yeah. And so to me, success has to be reached by the end of each day.
I love that. And it's not a cliche question. I actually love that question. It's the definition changes a lot. And for me right now, it is sustainability is success for me. Like, I don't want to go in a particular direction that I cannot sustain in anything that I do. So for me, being able to start something and for it to be able to continue and grow, that's success for me. So I feel successful if revenue is growing, if the company is growing, if something, success for me is growth, right? Mm-hmm. And the absence of growth is being unsuccessful as far as I'm concerned. So wherever I grow, if I read more books this month than last month, or if I made more phone calls this month or next month, that's success to me. That gives me a sense of, because I'm a competitive person, right? Yeah. So I need a target, right? Yeah. So that's success for me. I think, growth and family, having great relationships with family and just associates and friends, growth, good relationships, that's success to me. I think good health is success to me. Those, I would say those three. Like, those are the things that you cannot take away from. So, yeah.
Do you have any advice for people who maybe want to follow in your footsteps, that want to step into entrepreneurship or are maybe just motivated in building their company? Maybe some words of advice that you would share with them.
If you want to start a company, read 2 books. Read Nail It, Then Scale It. I forgot the guy's name who wrote it. And also read Startup J-Curve, because both of those books actually will help you avoid a mistake that I made, which was to build a product and then try to find customers. That's the worst. If you build it first, you're basically almost dead already. Mm-hmm. So, read those 2 books, and my advice was 100%. Before you build anything, speak to who you think your customer is, and really start to get an understanding of what their real needs are, what the real opportunity is, and your capability or the capability of your team to actually meet that need, whether you need to build a team or you have those capabilities already. I think that's my advice. Your odds of success will shoot up exponentially if you approach it from that angle rather than, oh my God, wouldn't it be cool if we made X? It's cool to you, but nobody might buy that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great. How can people reach you after this podcast?
It's a great question. So I'm not so much of a social media guy. You can reach me you know what? You can follow us at ALGAS, Algas Organics on Instagram. You can reach me at 758 Prodigy, I think, on Twitter. I tweet sometimes. Happy to share ideas and just share experiences and see if it might be helpful.
Awesome. Well, now you guys know how to reach him. And thank you just so much for taking the time to drive out here for us to connect and have this conversation. And until the next time.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Bye, everyone.
All right.
And that wraps up another episode of Founder Tactics. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Don't forget to rate the episode and also subscribe so that you don't miss any of our other interviews in the weeks to come. Stay tuned.